Sarun Sat Sri Akal, Namaskar, Adab, Jai Shri Krishna to another health show of mine with Manjeet Kaur, taking you to another journey of your health is your wealth. This is one of our motives, always to give you that guidance of health and well-being, because if you do not take care of yourself, you'll depend on hospital treatments, and then you'll become a victim of allopathic drugs or orthodox medicine, and then you'll knock on other doors 10 years later thinking you're now ultra toxic, and that means that you've got huge amount of chemical toxins and chemical side effects from drugs. Some are lifesavers, please take note. Some are life survivors, some are anti-inflammatory, some are painkillers, some are dependency drugs, some are autoimmune, some are anti-cancers. But then comes in surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, and now you are now losing an organ that I'm going to take you to a journey that never ever rebuilds once the cells are died. A sharabi can abuse a liver and can give up, go on a detox, and get the liver to regenerate new cells. It can happen only so many times in a life, but not so often. And then he will have liver cirrhosis, or he'll have jaundice that will affect the liver, inflamed liver, enlarged liver, and then it leads on to a total collapse of liver or liver cancers, and that means the liver will not regenerate. Two organs in the body, folks, that do not regenerate. With these 600 trillion cells, two organs never regenerate. That's the pancreas and the brain, full stop. The brain, once it starts demising and you start losing cells, then you're ending up to dementia and loss of memory. And the pancreas, when these cells die, it is an organ which is a glandular organ in all vertebrate animals. Vertebrae is the back reed, haddi jadi apni hai. This glandular organ has got an amazing function, and it's mostly in, obviously, very prominent in human beings, located in the abdominal cavity behind the stomach. It is a very important gland, and this is why looking at diabetes, which is knocking on every Punjabi person and Asian community on their door, is diabetes type 1 or type 2. Or heading to diabetes, where doctors may let you have a bit of dietary support. Eventually, if you do not beat your habits and change your diet and your exercise regime, you will then be put on medication 2 to 3 years later. By then, your pancreas has demised even further, but this is not known much in English medicine, but I wouldn't waste a minute of my patients' time when they come to us with these kind of disease factors to stop the pancreas from dying and the new cells from dying. On this evening, I'm taking you to a journey where your health is your wealth. You are going to spend this money on yourself because you will actually flourish and reap the rewards. But the rewards that you pay to private insurance is thinking you'll get a blood test, thinking you'll jump the NHS queue. Yet these are the same doctors who see you at the NHS. These are and private as well, except you're getting a preferred earlier appointment. But NHS is beating many targets. We must respect that and the welfare state of the country. So how important it is so important in its hormonal function, including glycogen, which is one of the hormones secreted for what? That is what we'll be discussing on. But also somatostatin, and also the pancreatic polypeptide. These are the hormones that are secreted, and it's very important that what these do, obviously, is the insulin, which is circulated in the blood. Pancreas and the digestive organ, which is secreting pancreatic juice, containing digestive enzymes, containing digestion and absorption of nutrients into the small intestine. And what the small intestine does is this enzyme helps to further break down the carbohydrates, the proteins, and the fats and the lipids into chyme. Chyme is the final absorption of dal, sabji, chawl, roti, meat, fish, whatever you've eaten, which is then taken through the small intestine into the digestive, into the bloodstream to the liver. So complex. You may have just eaten and burped from the top end and the bottom end. Most people do after miscombining foods and think, maja aa gaya, khana khada, dakar aa gaya. The takar is an air bubble that makes you burp because one, you may have consumed it very fast and gulped or niggledified your food, which is very classic of what I see with women when we do hydrotherapy and men, that basically they've got food unchewed sitting there for years on end. And then if you see other women who may have had charcoal for years, and we pick up charcoal which they didn't have for 10 years, and the charcoal is leaching in the colon. This was something I picked up on my patient on last week's treatment, and she said, my God, how did you find out? I've never told you I've had charcoal, but I seriously did have charcoal tablets, thinking that they would help me with gas, but they just bloated her so much. She carried on, and the residue of charcoal 10 years later was still in the colon. That's sad. And that means that was now a toxic, powder sitting and causing more methane gas, bloating her to a maximum of discomfort every day, every afternoon, and every evening. And she thought having very little bird food, little would reduce the bloatedness, till she came for the hydrotherapy and noticed a phenomenal change. And she's now saying, you'll have to tell me when to stop, because I don't know when to stop having these therapies. Obviously, we will tell her when to stop. A huge amount of changes. So these are all things that happen if you do not consume in the right state of mind. You do not consume the food and chew it properly. You do not have a good background. You're not sitting in a good environment. You're not sitting upright. You may be slouching. And I noticed young children's stomachs curling in and saying, "Mera tid dukhda," and this is how they sit all day. Or they'll curve in because the lazy couches, the worst thing that has come in the market compared to the good L-shaped couches that made sure that your posture was right, and so did our teachers. We had a foot ruler on the back of our hands, had it once in my life and never again on the knuckles. The pain is so atrocious that this kind of pain in school is not allowed, and punishment that will certainly get the teacher out of school. But we certainly learned our lessons and respected our teachers. So to assist and to absorb this nutrition, obviously the enzymes have to be perfectly balanced. So amazing, Ratali Rabb ne ditiya, you will be just scratching your head all your life reading about or listening to my shows and understanding the complexity of a human body, which we take for granted. So granted that we think, आज खा लांगे कल नू देखा जाएगा, आज खा लांगे सवेर नू देख लवांगे, आज पी लांगे ते कल नू देख लांगे ते छड़ दवांगे. And that itself becomes a punishment, because what you have consumed today will then be a problem tomorrow or next year or the year after. So जलसे जिंदगी दे विच हुंदे ने, खाने पीने दे जलसे बचपने दे बड़े हुंदे ने, जलसे जवानी दे जोश दे विच बड़े हुंदे ने, पर जलसे बुढ़ापे दे विच बड़े सोहणे इनाम आंदे ने, for which you then feel sorry for yourself. And the way I started saying is, why is diabetes knocking on every Punjabi person's home and doorstep, that they either have a type 1, they either have a type 2, or they either are there's somebody on a food support. But type 1 and type 2 is classic, where Ealing Borough knocked the door on every household of Ealing Borough, only to be shocked 10 years ago that there is one member in every household, no age, no gender, that have diabetes type 1 or type 2. 10 years later, I'm sure this is strikingly so high, probably 2 members of every Asian household now have diabetes. Diseases are manifesting, man is not understanding, fast foods are getting more and more, where they say just order and eat, do not cook. For girls, as I'm seeing, what we launched, the cook show, basically was for them to understand the benefits and the food combining. I think ਵਿਆਹ ਦੀ ਡਾਉਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੱਪੜੇ ਥੋੜੇ ਦੇ ਦਿਓ, ਪਰ 1 ਸਾਲ ਦਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਟੇਕ ਅਵੇ ਵਾਊਚਰਸ ਦੇ ਦਿਓ ਕਿ ਘਰ 'ਚ ਲੜਾਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਏਗੀ, because she's certainly not a keen cook. ਜਾਂ ਮਦਰਸ ਨੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ, ਜਾਂ ਪੜ੍ਹਾਈ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਕਰ ਲੂਗੀਆਂ cooking. Habits that don't start from the young age of 12, you cannot force them much later, because they've now made their choices. And we as parents, or you as parents, will be considered as foolish by the children. Yet parents are always right. So all respect to parents, but children can be quite challenging these days and disrespectful, but they think parents are certainly wrong. Obviously, pancreas is involved in sugar control. One of the biggest problems of diabetes and metabolism within body also obviously will happen only if all the secretion of these enzymes is right and all the substances which help digestion are correctly balanced and released from the pancreas, full stop. That's the story of diabetes that leads on to type 1 to type 2. Those who are born with the type 1 from the time they're born, that is a different story. That is a failure of the pancreas to make insulin. There is no recovery to those children. They are then on insulin for the rest of their lives. So blood sugar levels, which help to control obviously and break up the fats, is so important because blood sugar levels are maintained at a constant level in the body by a feedback mechanism. And when the blood glucose is too high, the pancreas secretes insulin, and when it's too low, the pancreas secretes glycogen. What amazing theory of a pancreas knowing what you are having to produce one or the other. Shocking. And so obviously amazing कि ਇਹ ਰੱਬ ਨੇ ਇਨਸਾਨ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ ਸਰੀਰ ਬਣਾਇਆ ਆ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਮਸ਼ੀਨਰੀ ਬਣਾਈ ਆ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਡੀ ਲੈਣੇ ਤੇ should be get 5 gears or 4 gears and should have a very high speed and a pull out ratio and good oil fuel consumption and less gases released, so your insurance covers are less. And what the body does, we don't seem to take care that whatever we are discharging from the back passage as methane gas or bad wind, foul wind and burping and acidity doesn't seem to resonate to people that they're doing something wrong in their lifestyle. I'm sure a lot of you are sitting there today and maybe have had a few burps, may have had the wrong food, and others who are rightly, suffering from acidity will be still having about a bowl full of ice cream, who have come to me in the clinics up north and down south, and still challenge after taking my remedies, not having heartburns, going back to their bad habits, but I do not treat them again because I'm not going to take challenges, and I'm very dedicated to my work. I think the word perfectionist in timekeeping, in cook shows, in getting the health shows right is probably maybe a good habit, but probably quite endorsed by our parents of having good timekeeping, good sports habits, good sportsmanship of having to win, and that thirst of perfection. It only produces good quality, but over perfection is another story. That doesn't gel with me. So the pancreas, obviously, 3 million cells are in this cluster of this amazing organ. You'll see the picture images coming up again and again, called pancreatic islets, tiny islets which are present in the pancreas. Within these islets are 4 types of cells which are involved in the regulation of the blood sugar. Again, so majestic ke Rabb ne, science ne kinni tarakki kiti, kinna pata kita, kinni khoj kiti hai ke Rabb ne sਰੀਰ ਕੀ ਪਾਇਆ. ਰੱਬ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉੱਪਰੋਂ ਬਾਇਓਲੋਜੀ ਬੁੱਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਿੱਟੀ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਰੀਰ ਦੀ ਰਾਹ ਰੈਸਪੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਥੋੜਾ ਕੋਕੋਨਟ ਪਾਣੀ ਪਾਇਆ, ਥੋੜਾ ਘੀ ਪਾਇਆ, ਬਟਰ ਪਾਇਆ, ਸ਼ੂਗਰ ਪਾਈ, and I've created a human being. So complex that it will dawn on you, and only then, after listening to my shows, will you pause one day to respect your body, to say what I'm eating today is bad, but I'll certainly get a very bad result of that in years to come. 3 million cells in these islets, and these islets with 4 different types of that are involved in blood sugar levels. The first cell, which is secreting type hormone, which is called the alpha cells, ALPHA, secretes glycogen, and that is to increase the glucose blood. Then come in the beta cells that secrete insulin, that decrease glucose in the blood. I mean, how does the pancreas know? It's amazing that it can read through the first sugar molecule. A grain of sugar that you put on the front tip of your tongue will tell a signal to the brain that you have just had sugar, sending a message to the pancreas to make glucose. Amazing. But you did not write, the pancreas cannot read, but the brain has sent a signal. Majestic. How great is this body? I hope you will sleep with these thoughts and sleep every Monday with those good thoughts about your body and think, what am I going to do? What have you understood from my missionary work of sitting here, paying a 1 hour bill of running these shows, trying to bring education to our community at large, but also my therapies that I do in my clinic. For all the Glasgow viewers who are listening, I'll be in Glasgow for a marathon clinic from the 10th to the 15th of August. This is kids' holiday time, so it is prime time for you to take your kids and bring your kids, book them in for breathing problems, thrush, vaginal thrush, young children coming from Glasgow down south for thrushes, for parasites, for breathing conditions, for hay fever, for asthmatic conditions. Are we producing a generation of children with multitude diseases, and then mothers are knocking on doctors and pediatric clinics trying to find answers and getting nowhere and taking time off clinic, causing stress on the child? A white coat syndrome is so terrible for the child and terrifying to see a doctor in a white coat, and that's a syndrome that steps into anxiety. And the child can even end up having hyperacidity. Delta cells secrete somatostatin, which regulates and stops delta, alpha and beta cells. And the pancreatic cells secrete pancreatic polypeptide. So amazing. These all act to control blood glucose through secreting glycogen to increase the levels of glucose and insulin to decrease. What amazing therapy. I hope you have understood. Obviously, I'm speaking on a layman's term, but if I speak to students, it will be a very, very complex language. So I really have to make sure that I don't over-modify my program, that people say it's too complex to understand. So for people who have just tuned in for my shows, keep watching them every Monday. 9:40 p.m. clinics are held in Ivor in Buckinghamshire, very close to Southall, not far away from Southall, but Southall people think traveling 12 minutes to Ivor is a missionary, but they find a Golgappa, little hatti jai, 12 minutes on the other side of Southall, that's fine. But 12 minutes for your health seems to be quite a missionary journey. And then I have a clinic in Birmingham for the last 6 years, and Bradford every 2.5 months, and then Edinburgh and Glasgow from public demand. So make use of these times that I'm going to be in Glasgow, because on my return will be before early setup of winter. I certainly will not be there in extreme winter. I certainly will not be there in December. And when the weather gets better, because I'll have to drive 6.5 hours. So I need to look at my safety as well. Obviously, these islets, they are crisscrossed by a dense network of capillaries. Capillaries finer, 10 times finer than human hair. So pause to touch your human hair and you will say, my God, if this is thin or thick hair, people have different thicknesses, then how thin are those capillaries? 10 times finer than human hair. And these islets then depend from the function of the digestive role which is played by the majority of the pancreatic cells. So these 3 million cells have such a major role in digestion of food. It is just amazing. You have eaten, you have gobbledygook, you have not chewed, you expect this to be done by the stomach. Sorry, all the chewing process starts from the mouth. All the saliva in the mouth has such amazing chemistry and such an amazing link to the stomach, to the pancreas, to the brain, that within seconds of taking that sugar, split second messages, 100 split second of 1 grai of sugar, a message is sent to the brain. The only one organ that needs sugar is the brain, and that's glucose. No other organ in the body needs sugar. Desi ladies and kudiyan from Punjab and think ke je bachche nu sugar na diti, ja tusi sugar na khati tanu sugar ho jaugi. folks, it's not like that. Sugar ta hundi hai. When your pancreas fails to work and when the liver cannot break these digestive enzymes further, the stomach cannot break those foods, it is so complex. Those are raised blood sugar levels, and then a disease is manifesting in the body. The two secretion of the beta cells, the alpha and the beta cells, which increase secretion for alpha and B2 secretion from the beta, they actually depend and lean on each other. So again, this is like do padalsi आपस ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੋਲਬਾੜੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ, and then the same thing with the pancreas. If the alpha and the beta cells are on war and each one is starved from good pancreatic islets and good cells, because cells will die once your pancreas is going through multitude abuse day in day out. The cells will die. No new cells are born in made in here, and that's then it's a total failure of the liver. of the taste of the karele and the kratan taste, which is the bitterness what pancreas loves. Again, towards the end of the show, I will actually also be giving a juice. Keep a paper and pencil ready. Do not call saying, oh sorry, main suniya nahi siga, pass ho gaya thada show. You just seriously, jana ne show dekhne aine for 20 years, sunde aine for 6 years now on televisions, and now for the year and a half on a call channel. It is quite I'm very adamant to make sure that I can take you to a food journey, but also to a juice journey, which is not ek din di dasha. It is your lifestyle patterns. Har roz roti khane, har roz dal khane, jehde khane aapa dasde ne vadiya khane, ਇਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਇੱਕ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੀ ਚੋਇਸ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ, ਬਿਕਾਜ਼ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਮਸਲੇ ਔਰ ਹੱਲ ਤਦੇ ਨਿਕਲੇਗੇ if you can go on to a good protocol. Let me now take you on to the second half of the show. Take a little short sweet break, but definitely not a sweet break and not a sugar break. Let's go for water or a green tea. I'll be taking you to the second half after this short break with Manjeet Kaur. Stay tuned.